Hello everyone and welcome to Holistic Health and Harmony, and today's discussion is going to be on clairvoyance.
And I know that's one of your favourite topics.
Sure is.
Because you have been doing it for how long, Carolyn?
Oh, over all my life, but professionally the last 25 years or so. Now, basically, we'll start from a few little easier parts. So I'll introduce who I am. I'm Carolyn Flynn, so if you're just joining me for the first time.
And I'm Rayleen Kable.
And yes, you've got the two of us, that's right. Now, predominantly I am clairvoyant, and I just want to give you a little bit of a breakdown on what clairvoyance is. Obviously, it's a French word for the one that sees, but it also connects to all of the senses, okay? So you'll be looking at what you would work with would be clairsentience, which is touching and feeling, okay? That's it. I sure did. Clairaudience, where you actually are able to hear. Now, some people don't have all the senses connected at once. Okay, you may be very, very strong or very prevalent in one, and maybe still evolving the other. Now, you also have the smelling, which I can never pronounce, but it's clairalience. It's where you actually can smell. So that's not unusual. I'm knowing when I'm getting asked questions within a reading and somebody might ask about a particular situation or a person, and I might go, I smell, this perfume, or I smell a rose garden, or I smell soil. That's true, it just automatically, the way that energy can connect with you, they literally come to one of the senses.
That's right, and everyone's senses are different, and as I guess you develop too.
Most definitely.
They all get fine-tuned at some point.
Most definitely. And then, of course, you have, I know, you have instant knowing, which is known as clairaudience. Oh, well, I can't even get my word around it, okay, but it is actually instant knowing, and that's when we actually get our information.
It's a big word, actually. I was just trying to say, I can say it in my mind, but I know,
but trying to get it out. It's when you're talking, you may know absolutely nothing about a subject, situation, or a person, but the information you're getting is just so unadulterated. It's just bang, it's filtered straight there, and it's coming straight in and straight out, okay? So it's instant knowing. And then, of course, you have tasting, which is clairgustance, okay, where you actually find that you're able to taste. So somebody might be asking about Great Aunt Mary, who I use a lot. Poor Great Aunt Mary, she's been around the world and so on. But I'll use poor Great Aunt Mary, and I'll go like, oh, I just keep on tasting apple pie or coffee or cream puffs or dust in my mouth, and a lot of the times this is their way of connecting. So with our senses, okay, you put them all together. Of course you have clairvoyance, but you may be at different levels with each of them. So
so with that, Carolyn, because that's one of your main tools, obviously as a clairvoyant, when did you really discover, and how many of the 5 or 6 that we mentioned for sentience, for the audience, how many of those do you run from the majority of the time? I mean, sometimes, as you know, we can have every scent happening at once, depending on the client, depending on the circumstances. But how many generally would you have happening for you or running from you when you're doing clients?
Well, definitely the feeling.
Yes.
The feeling. And I used to call myself a vibalist because I'd be sitting there.
Why a vibalist?
A vibalist. I had no idea what it was actually.
I think that's a new word in the dictionary.
It is, a vibalist. Because I'd pick up on their vibe, when they sat down, and I'd be like, I had no idea. So I didn't have someone that turned around and said, you're clairvoyant.
Yeah, of course.
So it's kind of like I had to realise, well, hang on, I'm tasting and smelling and knowing and feeling and seeing, all of this. So I actually started to realize. But I used to have people sit down, and so it's like the vibes. I'd pick up off the energy, off the what's going on.
So that you've got the feeling all the time.
I've got the feeling all the time, okay? And the instant knowing is always there. So it's like I've already got messages. I've already got things coming through. Bang, 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 bang.
So did that develop over time, or was that something that happened instant? Okay.
It gets better.
Over time it gets better. The more you use it, would you say?
Most definitely. And the more you learn to trust, because trust is a big thing. We are just the vessel, literally, for the information that we're seeing, okay? And it's not up to us to make sense out of it. It's actually up to the receiver.
That's true. That's true.
You know, and when we start to put our logic into situations, what tends to happen? We tend to get lost in translation. Yeah. So it's always good to listen to your senses. So, you know,
you're a feeler. You're a know-all. Yes.
I'm a know-all.
I didn't say know-all. I did say you're a know-all. Yeah, that's good. What else, though?
Okay, so I tend to hear. Now, some people, clairaudience. So some people would turn around and say to you, "Oh, well, do you hear them as in talking just like this in your ear?" Yeah, okay. Well, actually, sometimes it can be like that, but sometimes it can actually be in the back of your head. It's almost like it's inside your head. It does sound a bit weird when you say it like that, but for you, we understand that sometimes you will have those experiences. So that's it. Obviously, I have sight, so I'm able to see future things. I'm able to see.
So when you say that, do you have sight from your eyes with your psychic ability, or where do you have your sight?
It's actually within the third eye. It's within the
what's kind the third eye?
Well, the third eye is the thing that sits right here.
I'm just doing that for somebody who doesn't know for the first time, doesn't understand what it is.
It's like having a daydream, and that's what tends to happen. You'll have imagery or a thought pattern that will pop into your head, and all of a sudden it starts having a picture that goes with
it. It's like a TV screen. That's how the best way I could describe it from my own experience as clairvoyant is, you know, you could be doing something and all of a sudden you've got all these pictures, all these visions, all these pictures of things happening on a TV screen. It is in that part of the
most body. Definitely. It's kind of sitting up here. And I'll give you a really classic example. Obviously, you know, as a kid I was quite sensitive. I didn't realise that I was clairvoyant, I didn't realise that at all. But roughly around about 15 or 16, I had a very, very strong experience that has stuck to me to this day and really opened my pathway for me. And what happened was we were having a family Christmas, and our family is spread all over the place. So, you know, it's in Queensland and Victoria and here and there and everywhere. And we were in Bathurst, New South Wales at the time. And we're all sitting around the table and everyone was toasting to the new year, you know, Christmas and New Year. And as it's coming around, each person is saying, you know, oh, you know, good luck to this and, you know, happy health and, you know, all of the other stuff. What happened was it was almost like I had just removed myself from the seat. I was just sitting there, but I really didn't feel I was there, you know. Wow. And in front of me was like a picture reel started up, and it was my great-grandmother who was up in Queensland, so she was over, you know, 100 kilometres away from where we were. And I could see her in a hospital bed with a sheet up to her neck. I see machinery around. I see 3 people standing at the side of the bed, and then I see my mum and my nan take a position at the end of the bed. And I'm a typical Sag, so I tend to kind of not think before I speak. And of course, it come around to the toast for me. You know, holds up my soft drink, and it's like, because I was only 16. Here's to little Nana. She won't be with us much longer. Well, I was the most popular person at the table, wasn't I?
So you were top in the room next to Christmas.
Yeah, that's it. So anyway, someone turned around and they said, oh, Carolyn, don't be silly. She's as healthy as a horse. And my mum took me off to one side and we went out into the kitchen. She said, now, Carolyn, you've got to be very careful what you say. You know, you might be thinking that, but, you know, you've got to really, you know, monitor what you're saying. And I said, well, Mum, this is what I saw. Now, this is when I actually started to speak out more about what I was going through. Because
was you typically a shy child, would you say?
Well, yeah, I kind of kept a lot. People think I'm out there, but I really keep a lot on the inside. So, you know, and I didn't discuss it because I didn't know if it was normal or not normal. You know, there's lots of life experience.
I can so relate to what you're saying there because I was a little bit like that myself.
That's it. So anyway, you wouldn't want to know this, but anyway, well, you would want to know this. About 24 hours later, we get a phone call, and it's from the nursing home that my little Nana was in, and they were saying, come now, because she had apparently fallen out of bed, broken her hip, they'd operated, and she got pneumonia, and they didn't feel that she was going to survive. So I'd already discussed everything with my mum, what it looked like, because like to people, it looks like it's taking forever, but it actually happens within about 5 seconds. You know, everything that you're seeing, the brain's processing it, you know, and as soon as you're kind of like, you've understood what you've just seen, you kind of disconnect, okay? But at the moment, it's almost like as if you're in, like almost like a dream state, isn't it? You kind of feel like you just lifted, your energy's lifted. So I told Mum what I'd actually seen, and Mum turns up, and exactly as I described, that was what, you know, they walked into, and she did pass not long after that, so she had to wait for my nana to arrive. So, you know. So do you feel on some level, Carolyn, that was your great-grandmother? Is there an ability within the family? Is there someone in the family strangely enough, okay, every time someone in the family passes, okay, on the feminine side, okay, even though they've never really practiced or done a lot, for some reason I open a new level of my understanding. So obviously when little Nana, which was my great-grandmother, that was at 16. That was at 16. That's when my sight became full. Okay, so I was able to see, and I was, you know, the instant knowing was starting to get there, but it was more about being able to see things. Now, I don't always see, you know, death, doom, gloom. It's nothing like that, okay? Often there is only certain close people that I might have a bit of a heads up on a situation. Yeah, and it's interesting though, because when you said that, you know, it isn't always doom and gloom, but often, and I can just go back to when I was a little girl and with my clairvoyance a little bit, it was about, I would see things that were way out there, like, and they weren't always pleasant. No. But now, as I've got older, in hindsight, I look at it and I go, okay, that was another level, and it was like there's stages that you go through, and I guess, what you're saying now, you have that ability from that age, because, and that's why I asked if it's in the family, because sometimes when a loved one's about to pass, especially like being a great grandmother, you know, did your great grandmother have that gift of clairvoyance? Well, see, you know, back in her time, she didn't talk about it, you know, and this is the thing, you know, and a lot of things were hush-hush, and, you know, they were a bit weird or out there, you know, but nothing was really said. And we talk about feeling, like, I have this knack, when anyone's pregnant in my family, I actually get kicking in the stomach. This is no joke. And often, you know, sometimes if a client's going to come, I might get a little bit of a sensation, and I might be kind of like a little bit anxious, like I always said, you know, like because I'm picking up on family, you know, someone about that same age. Or, you know, is it this client? So sometimes it's about trusting that that you will get your energies and your promptings and your information with that will help you with situations or circumstances or experience that you're familiar with. That makes sense. So for me, I identify with that, and I go, okay, there's a pregnancy, depending on what side, left or right, whether it's a boy or girl. How long does it last? I have to ask. How long does it last for when you have that feeling? Until I actually get a confirmation. Until that person says, yes, I am pregnant. Right. Yeah. Okay. And that's a good question, because, you know, sometimes and I know myself, when I've done, you know, prior to a client come to see me, I generally will get a whole feeling thing. Yes. You know, how they're feeling, if they're anxious to see me, if, you know, the whole thing. And, and I guess that's a good thing, because then that allows you to be prepared for your client. And you're really tapping in. You're tapping in before they get there, isn't it? It's like their higher self-arise before they get there. Well, that's not like walking the door before they walk in the door. And I guess that's good for the client too, because then they know that you're really with them. You know, you're really connected. You're really going to help them on that day. Yeah. But it's amazing how many people do experience. I mean, I remember many years ago on the circuit, we were in Tamworth, and this young lady was in a wheelchair, and excuse me, I had to excuse myself from her presence. She didn't know this, but I actually had a very bad chest pain, and I thought, oh my God, and I knew it wasn't mine. Yeah. And I guess that's a good question in saying that too. Sometimes people can experience, and like I know people have asked you and asked myself, you know, why do I get that? Sometimes we can get what I call symptomatic feelings. Psychosomatic, most definitely. And you know, the worst part about it is when you're, not the worst part, but the funny part about it, okay? You make it funny. I know, I do. But it's kind of like I feel really terrible for the client, because if, for instance, I'm doing something and I'm really tapping into what I'm feeling, okay, and so forth, and listening to, you know, my gift, my ability, whatever, if that client has a nervous tick I produce the nervous
Oh, really? Oh, no.
So it's like, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Or if they have a lisp, all of a sudden I've got the lisp. It's like, you know, really taking it on.
Wow.
There are some beautiful benefits because you do get to feel when you're talking to somebody, you can sense the transition and the change within them. You can feel the uplift.
Yeah, well, that's right.
The
that's what I have
confirmation.
found.
Yeah, the validation.
So, yeah, and I guess that too, when you've got a client in front of you, that feeling of, you know, you can feel their aura shifting, and you can feel their, maybe when they come in, they were a little bit confused. Not all clients are, don't get me wrong, but you know, they might have been just a little bit withdrawn, a little bit closed off, and then as the session goes on, you start to feel that their aura and their spirit lifts. I guess the question we could ask each other and put to you is, you know, how best would it be, or how best is it how can a person really further develop their clairsentience, their clairaudience, their you know,
clairgustance, their taste, their smell, the knowing, all of that.
What you said there?
Clairgustance, yeah, that's about the only one I can get my tongue around.
Well, they are. I mean, all meaning the same thing, is using the whole package. But I guess what do you? Well,
you've got to learn to trust. So sometimes you might be working more strongly with your sight. And you're still developing your hearing, and your hearing might come through in, it just sounds like your own voice talking to you, but the information that you're getting is quite prevalent.
And it's very out there.
And it's very out there, that's right. It's not saying, you know, like, oh, look, there's a pink elephant flying through the air at the moment, and you're going to see that at 6 o'clock.
It's not like a cat once when I was a little girl. We had a really, seriously, we lived on a 2-story unit, and there was this, that scared me more because I didn't like storms at the time. And next week, you know, this little cat just goes flying past, and I said to my mum, did you see that cat? I'm seeing things. But,
So sometimes, you know, you'll find that you're developing, when you're developing your hearing, you might get high-pitched noise. You might
like
get
a ringing.
Yeah, like
I know
a
for
ringing.
myself,
Yeah.
If there's something important to come
through.
through.
Oh my God! And you're not listening.
Yeah.
They will
and
bang.
And they give you that sound. So and that's, you know, these are things that people need to understand because as you grow spiritually.
Yeah.
All your senses will change, and they'll change over time.
That's it. It does change. It gets more in depth. So, everyone has the gut feeling, that intuitiveness. That you know, there's something wrong, or there's something great. You know, or there's something going on. It's like walking into a room and you can feel the tension. Everybody has that, but it's like learning to trust it. You know, or asking yourself, what do I need to recognize? You know, where am I at? What is important about this?
So what's the main message for this as well?
That's it. Is it my energy? Is it somebody else's? Because being clairvoyant, being medium, being spiritual, being sensitive, whatever.
You're an open vessel. So, you know, I know myself sometimes, you know, if I'm really in a very sensitive state with my psychic ability or my clairvoyance, I basically find sometimes sunlight's pretty strong, or sometimes even, you know, being around foods. Well, you know, anyone that knows me, everyone that does know me, often I'll be talking and all of a sudden I'm sneezing. And by the way, just to let the viewers know, I have taken an allergy tablet because I did start to sneeze. So
she doesn't just sneeze, okay? So achoo. It's like constant.
So we would not have got this done. But in saying that, I have found myself, you know, when it comes down to it, as I'm getting older, and because I've been in the industry as long as yourself, and you know, you do become a lot more sensitive to things. And I guess it's about recognizing that. You know what I mean?
That's exactly right.
I found when have you ever experienced, like, I used to get a lot of headaches, maybe even 10 years ago I used to get a lot of headaches. I'm not a headache person.
No.
And luckily enough, there was this innate ability for me to know that it wasn't a physical thing. Not to say I didn't go to the doctors. The doctor said everything was fine, so I knew straight away it was a spiritual thing. So you don't dismiss experiences that you have physically, even though they could be a spiritual experience. I'd always say to you, and I know you would, you know, if you're having some symptoms that could also, you know, mean they could be spiritual.
They could be mimicking something else, definitely.
So definitely go to the doctor first, but then if you find the doctor says everything's
just don't tell him you're hearing voices.
Well, yes. Well, you could. Then I don't know where you'd end up.
That's it.
So, but yeah, most certainly it would be about, you know, do the practical thing. Go to the doctor first. Make sure that, you know, everything's on the physical level cleared, and then if everything is cleared on the, you know, if it's hearing or headaches you're getting, or you know, pressure on your head, or you know, your throat playing up. Because often I'm a Taurian. Not everyone knows that, but I'm a Taurian, and my little spiritual sensitive spot is my voice or my throat. So if I'm not in my power or I'm not feeling good or I'm just flat, that will be the first area that will go, and it can go in the physical sense as well.
Most definitely.
But spiritually, it can be that I lose my voice or that I just, tonsillitis and all those type of things. So, get to know.
That's a whole new subject on the symptoms of health.
I know. That's something that we definitely
yeah, we
touch on
definitely
later
will,
on.
yeah.
But just in the sense of, letting your senses open. Sorry, Carolyn, I'm going to come back to you and ask a few more questions. Is there anyone else in your family that has the ability?
Well, my mum, does it the way that she does it. Yep. So she'll say, my mum believes that, like she puts it out to the universe, but she says, I was praying so hard that, this would happen, and it has, and I feel really great. So mum does have it. All my kids have it, believe it or not. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. It's like, definitely. Jess has more the telepathy side of things. Right. It's like, I might be in one end of the room, she's in another, and I'd be thinking, what am I going to do for dinner? And I'll walk out and I'll go to her, I'll go, I was thinking we'll have Chinese night. She goes, oh my God, Mum, get out of my head.
That's a really good way of saying it. Yeah,
and I'm kind of like, Natalie is the empath. She's very sensitive, quite intuitive, but she tends to take on a lot what's going on in the environment, so she can go through emotional ups and downs very, very quickly. I tend to find when we have some conversations, we bring in a lot of energetic, playing, like obviously the, energy tends to come in. My son, Troy, he basically, at a very early age, he was only about 3 years old, and he said to me, he goes, because I was going through a separation at the time, and he says, Mum, Dad's not going to come today. And I went, oh, really? And he turned around and he said, yeah. He says, oh, he's in hospital. And I went, oh, okay. 11 o'clock came.
Wow.
Right, phone rings. Oh, I'm not coming today. I spent the night up in the hospital because of, I think he had wisdom teeth or something. So I went and said to Troy, you were right. You were absolutely right.
So do they use it, do you think?
They use it in their own way. Each of, like even with Brad, he'll listen to when I talk about the body and, the spiritual connection with the body and the lessons that we're learning, and different things like that. And of course, Montana, super, super sensitive.
And Montana's your youngest child.
She is the youngest child.
She's coming on a
whole different level.
Yeah.
But I guess the more open you are with your children, with your family, and so forth, the better it is for them to kind of understand and develop what they've already got, because it doesn't feel so alien to them,
Of course, yeah.
It feels quite natural. But with each of the kids, they use it in their own way. So they know to listen, like I say to them, listen to your intuition, listen to the prompting. If you have a dream, look at why you're having that dream or why you're having that sensation or that experience. And they have kept, their head on quite sensible.
That's really good advice to your kids, but it's also good advice to you guys, because, if you've got a child or a teenager or a grown adult child
and 99% of them now, 99% of the children that are born today, that have been born over this, are really open, so open.
Yeah. So I guess when you look at it, it's a matter of, encourage your child or your young teenager or your young adult to further, develop, but also to trust. I guess that's the key here with clairvoyance, like you say, and that's been the key word today, is that we talk about trust and trusting the process and trusting, and people might say, well, what are you going to trust? And sometimes it's not about having a tangible thing to trust or a particular own inner guidance, and knowing that's connected to a source way beyond you.
Most definitely.
And I guess when it comes down to it, Carolyn, there's a lot of good that comes from your clairvoyance, as many clairvoyants, because you have chosen to do this as a profession and to help people in that way. Like I know some people that are very in tune, but they don't do it as a profession.
Most definitely.
And that's perfect.
Yeah, and I think like for majority of people that are going through senses of going like, hey, I've seen things, and I'm not talking about mediumship seeing things. I'm saying like predictive. I've just seen something of the past, or they've all of a sudden they're thinking, poor great Aunt Mary again. I don't have a great Aunt Mary, but anyway, I use her a lot.
Somebody does.
Yeah, somebody does. But poor great Aunt Mary, they might be saying, oh, I was really just thinking about great Aunt Mary, and all of a sudden I just like felt I was back in the kitchen. I was doing this, I was doing it, That's all part of this. That's, you know, that's part of, that's it. That's all part of the energy, the instant knowing on things, you know. For me, it's like, you know, I'll get little signs along the way, but over the years I've learned to go, okay, I'll listen to that. Yep, that's important, you know. And the more you work with and the more you trust yourself, the better that it becomes more stable. The ability to be able to hear, or the ability to be able to see. And I guess also this, I really must say, this really does come down to the receptiveness of the person in front of you as well.
Most certainly. I mean, I know myself, personal experience with clients. I've had clients that have been very closed off, and maybe because of fear, and that's fine. You know, each to their own, I say. But once, you know, the doors open on other levels, they then allow themselves to, you know. So if you are going to see a clairvoyant, or going to see Carolyn or myself, or anyone in the industry, you know, I guess the key is, you know, be open-minded, but also, you know, it's a trust thing. It's like we're saying, trust the universe, yes, but you also have to have that lovely rapport with the person that's going to read for you.
And it's always good to have a healthy sense of skepticism.
Oh, totally. I'm the biggest.
I know. I'm exactly the same. It's like, don't you give me a name. I need a face and a leg and an arm and something else to go with that.
Yeah, exactly. But over the years doing this work, you know yourself, Carolyn, is that, you know, the beautiful thing is you open up more and more, but you also help your client to open up more and more. And there are a lot of questions, and this is why I love the fact that we're going to be, you know, answering some questions for people, because you will have had experiences that may be clairvoyant that you don't know they're clairvoyant. Do you know what I mean? Or, you know, you might need to ask, how do I further develop, you know, my hearing side? And I must say this is important too, I guess, but I know with myself over the many years of doing it, and from a young age, I was always clairvoyant. I could hear. I used to say I could hear the man in my ear to my mum. No, I'm not nuts yet. But you know, and I was only a like 2 or 3 year old girl. Oh boy, I don't know where that came from. Someone's trying to pop in. But, So, but yeah, I was only a little girl, and so I had no idea. And you know, I've totally forgotten that boy. Someone's coming in to say hello.
Oh, there you go.
Right now, it's not the right time. Wow.
Yeah. So you know, the thing too is like I said, I had the sight, and obviously the clairsentience. I had the feeling all the time. You know what I mean? I would be able to feel things. I can remember walking through a shopping centre quite a few years back, and having somebody grab onto my elbow and walk beside me, just hanging onto my elbow. And the first thing that it reminded me of was my great-grandmother, because older people normally, and I thought, I've got somebody's grandparent.
Not realising that it might be your own.
It might be my own, but it's like, get up, okay, because I'm in a hurry today. You know, I mean, like, this is about boundaries as well, though, and then I'm saying that in a very light energy way. So you know, often you'll hear songs that are familiar, like that's true. I used to hear songs.
And that can develop your clairaudience very much, because when I heard the man in my ear, I was just like, wow, you know. But he scared me because I was a little girl and I didn't understand why I'm hearing this man in my ear.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But you do tend to, over the years, I guess, you know, the more that you utilise it, and this is not saying you have to be a professional psychic.
No, because you could have been laying in bed and in your head that morning you wake up and you might have a Rhiannon song or whatever, you know, playing in your head, and then you get up, you turn on the radio to go, you know, in the car or whatever, and guess what? That song plays. It's almost like it's a succession of events, but that's all showing you that you are opening up, you know.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, not to fear. Again, I'll always bring up not to fear. But you know, I don't know. I think, you know, clairvoyance. You're clairvoyance, and you've been amazing. You've been doing it so long. You know, you've done a lovely job, and no doubt you get questions along the way too from your clients. And I guess that's the joy of being a.
The biggest thing they used to say to me is like, well, how do you know?
And
how do you really know?
How did you answer that? Because it's a very hard. A lot of people have asked the same question to me. How do you answer it?
My guy, I really don't know how I know. I just know it. But the thing is, I have to trust also that the information that I was getting. And I always talk about my guys upstairs, and I know that'll be another section. And I can remember being on the phone to a lady, you know, and I was saying to her, oh yeah, the guys upstairs are saying right? Because that's how, you know, how I do the instant knowing thing. And she said, oh, you got people that live above you. I was like,
yeah. So, and as we do that topic in the future, people get to know that, you know, you refer to as a certain you guys upstairs, which is
that's it.
I just tend to flick around a lot with my That's the end of it.
Well, yeah, it is, and it, you know, and like Rayleen was, you know, asking, how do you keep on developing? How do you keep on moving along? You know, if you find that you're very strong at one particular sense, sometimes you don't need them all to be clairvoyant. You have them, but some are, you might be quite prevalent in one or the other, or maybe, you know, a couple of them. And just work with what you've got. And when you relax, it's amazing how much more will come through. Don't try and give logic to a lot of everything. You know, you won't be misguided. You know, sometimes it could be just about healing, you know, removing an emotional block or a psychological block, or, you know, things like that. It could be just about shifting a bit of that energy, which will help you to kind of embrace a little bit more of what you're experiencing.
And exactly. And I always say to people, you know, the important thing is that if you're confident with one aspect, build that confidence in that one aspect, because then the rest will just follow.
It does, yeah.
Myself, I've been blessed to have the hearing. Well, the hearing comes from a very young age, and I'm also a visionary. I mean, I use all senses, I must say, and sometimes one sense will be more than another.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, like sometimes I'll just get so many visions around a client, and I'll go, wow, you know. And other times I won't get so many visuals, but I'll feel and I'll hear. And then so it's, you know, so it doesn't mean you're not doing it right if you haven't got all senses working at the same time, you know, and it doesn't mean that you're not going to develop it. It just means that your higher self will only allow you what you need to use in that moment.
That's right, and what you can cope with. That's right.
Totally.
And you're talking about senses. I have this uncanny knack of sometimes I may not see, okay, but I will smell, and I would smell something like depression. And it's amazing, isn't it? You know, like they'll block whatever the other is, but they'll bring through a sense of something that I need to know or recognise, and they'll bring it through as in a smell.
I have to ask this, and this is more of a one-on-one question with you about an experience, but have you ever smelt the rotten eggs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as you say it, it's like,
yeah. The reason I say that, because, you know, for you may not understand that sometimes it's not always an easy job to be a clairvoyant, and some of the experiences that we have to go through, and I'm talking on a pain level too.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we can't be emotionally attached to what we're doing, but it doesn't mean that we don't get sharp pains in our tummy, and it doesn't mean we don't get headaches or sore backs, because that is all a part of the process. But the reason I asked you about the rotten eggs is because I only ever get that sense when there's something not right, that something's not going to work. And it doesn't mean that the person that's coming to see me has a problem per se, but it might be just a bit of an energy that's around them that's, let's say, not going to be conducive for me to help that client.
And when you smell that triggers. That also triggers the response that you have inside your head that goes, okay, that memory bank tells me that every time I've smelt that's this. You know what I mean?
Of course,
so it's a way that you're. That's
exactly
right. And the same with the pictures, the same with the music, the same with the the listening, the same with the taste. You know, like I said, you'll get a taste in your mouth, and a lot of the times it will open up a reflective memory, or it'll bring you back to a purpose or a point in your life. Okay, that maybe you need to take a little bit more of it.
I've got a really good idea if you're open to this, and I'm sure you might be open to it too. A little exercise you can do, and this is one that I've taught my classes in the past, is, you know, maybe close your eyes and, you know, have a notepad and pen in front of you. That would be really handy. And when you get time, close your eyes and just allow your hearing to expand beyond where you are, and kind of like allow yourself to kind of like go out of the room, go out of the neighborhood, and go beyond it. Write down how many different sounds you hear. You know, this is a really good little exercise to, one, heighten your awareness when it comes to your clairaudience. Okay, and you know, just go with it and see, and maybe give it another shot. You might do it once, now, and then later on, a day later or later in the day, you might, because sounds are always really good, especially during the day. They're great because there's dogs barking, there's cars and trucks, and so just a little exercise for you guys to to work on that clairaudience.
And the more that you actually separate yourself from your conscious mind, and that means sometimes when you're washing up, well, I've got a dishwasher now, but I do have to wash. But sometimes when you're washing up, it's amazing how you're actually present washing up, but in your head you're not. Well, you're kind of like you've got all of this other stuff going on, and then all of a sudden you'd be amazed at how that thought forming is actually probably instant knowing, or something that's quite relevant that's coming up that you may be seeing. It's in that time that you're kind of separating from it, and you're just allowing the moment to be.
It's funny you say about the dishwashing, because I remember years ago, and it's going back maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, I was doing my dishes. Yeah. I didn't have a dishwasher, by the way. I was doing my dishes, and all of a sudden I had a man with me in spirit and in vision, and I had visions everywhere. And this happened to be, and I'll cut this story short. He was a lovely man, but he was actually missing at that time in my area. Yeah. And I had no idea, because I'm doing my dishes, and then all of a sudden I'm talking to this lovely man. I go, well, why are you? Yeah. And then I walked outside into my indoor-outdoor room, and happened to hear on the radio that this man had been missing. But it is sometimes in those quiet moments. You could be not even reading a book, just sitting there and watching TV.
You just kind of, it's almost like you've zoned out. Yeah, zoned out.
And then all of a sudden it will come, And it's in those moments, I guess sometimes Spirit works with us in that way, is where, when you're in one of your more relaxed moments is when you're going to receive. And I find this, and this is interesting, that the harder you try, the longer it takes. So it's not even about trying, it's just about being. It's about being in the moment.
Yeah, most definitely.
And let all those senses, open up and grow.
Totally agree. So this is our subject on clairvoyance, okay? You're hearing a little bit of everything all over here and there and everywhere, but put it all together. You may find that you have some experiences that you'd like to share. You might find you have some questions. You might find you have a healthy sense of skepticism.
Play that little exercise, because it's a really good exercise. And if anything, all it's going to do is help to open your hearing up even more. Don't be frightened.
No, definitely not. Because it's you're just going to become a beautiful vessel anyway. With beautiful energy coming through from you. Okay, this comes from within you. But yeah, work with it. If you can find a great class, sometimes a really good group, because the more heightened the energy is, the easier it is to tap in and to be able to help yourself to progress. That's exactly right. But trust is a big thing.
Yeah. And if you have an area that you want to really develop more, work on that area. If it's your hearing, you want to hear more, or visuals, work on that. Sometimes, and the best way to do this sometimes is to ask your higher self. I wish to hear better. I wish to see better. I wish to feel more. But remember what you ask for, and you can.
Yes, well, so we don't want to scare you off just yet.
No, be careful what you ask for.
That's exactly right. And be willing to put the work and energy and effort in too, because sometimes having this ability or it does come with proper responsibility.
Totally.
It does come with being authentic and ethical, and a lot of most definitely, and respecting other people's space as well, not just walking up and just delivering. That's something that we are very, very strong on not doing. It's something that has to be permissible. It has to be something that's given there. Except if it's my kids, okay, I can go up and say, well, I've got a feeling,
and they have the choice. But they have
to listen or not. Yeah,
exactly.
That's exactly right.
We wish you a lovely journey, and I hope you have enjoyed today's talk on clairvoyance. And thank you very much, Carolyn. This was a really good topic, and it was great that you expressed some of your family and shared some of your family with us.
I know.
We look forward to doing your little talk, and hopefully you're going to have some questions for us.
Most definitely, and don't forget to check out our Facebook, which we have all of our links up, so you'll be able to go and have a look at, and we'll be looking forward to some live and interactive chats connected to clairvoyance and many other subjects.
Yes, certainly.
Okay.
Namaste.
And cosmic hugs from me.